This video is sponsored by the Greek and Roman Empire, the empires that gave us all the tools and mechanisms to be able to control people in society. More about that later on in the video. Hello and welcome back to my channel, Disruptive Philosophy. My name is Brittany, and on this channel I talk about psychology, philosophy, and all the things going on with society through the perspective of an anarchist. And in this video we are going to talk about how Bama Rush is very similar to Court in a Monarchy or Bridgerton, and breaking down examples of the microcosms and microcosms of narcissistic collective units within our society and how it controls how capitalism abuses and oppresses us. If you like this content, please do all the YouTube things, like, subscribe, whatever else, or don't do them. Either way is fine with me. I would like to make this disclaimer right here that I am going to very much try to use the phrase woman who is in a sorority rather than the phrase sorority girl, because technically by society standards and by the definitions of the words, once you are over 18, you are no longer a girl. I'm trying to practice removing girl and replacing it with woman in my vocabulary because I feel like it may be some of the reason why women still get looked at as girls. I'm not here for like girl power. So I may slip up because obviously sorority girls is something that we've been using in our society as language for a long time, but I am going to try to refer to them as women who are in a sorority because we are women, not girls. I have also decided that I'm not going to be investing my money or time into learning how to use a teleprompter, so sometimes you may just like see the clipboard of notes. I may just break the fourth wall and yeah, that's just how it's going to be because that's how I would like to do this, because I'm not trying to be like a news reporter and I keep having to like gain these new skills, but like we're just gonna do this like this. And yeah, just break the fourth wall, make it's chill, it's relaxed. It's just, you're just like in my office, just like hanging out, we're having a conversation and I'm just like looking at my notes, and that's how we're gonna do it. So let's get into it. Greek life is an opportunity to social climb and to arrive in a higher class status in the societal hierarchy. It is the equivalent of being presented at court in a monarchy.
Active members are looking for girls that we can see futures in and that are going to like literally uphold our chapter and make us better in all aspects, whether that be grades or like how we present ourselves to the universe. If you're not meeting a certain criteria, you'll kind of just be dropped.
Miss Prudence Featherington, Miss Philippa Featherington, and Miss Penelope Featherington, all presented by their mother, the Right Honourable Lady Featherington.
It is only the Queen's eye that matters today. The glimmer of displeasure, and the young lady's value plummets to unthinkable depths.
Kind of just be dropped.
Sorrows, prayers.
Greek life is basically like one of your first opportunities to capitalistly social climb to higher class statuses. It is probably one of the most effective ways to rise up from your current class social status to a higher one successfully for your lifetime. Like I mentioned previously, I would consider it very similar to being presented at court or being presented as an eligible, woman in court. In Bridgerton, the women are presented to society, to court, as eligible for marriage, I think around like 14, 15. Obviously, we have different ages for that these days. It is 18, but it's really similar kind of experience of like, it's your first time presenting yourself as an adult to society without your parents, being able to make your own decisions. So Greek life is literally a recreation of Greek and Roman societies in a microcosm, because these people are the next generation of the elite in our current society that was built on all the mechanisms of control that the Greek and Roman societies were built on. So I want to emphasize it's literally called Greek life. They literally use like alpha, beta, pi language. They have a Senate, which is very much rooted in Roman and Greek empires and government. They have an aspect of Greek life that is literally called government. They actually like elect kings and queens. Right? Like prom kings and queens. So it really is like an opportunity to replicate a lot of toxic ways that we organize society in the past. And maybe I could, encourage you to believe that really America is just a modern version of a Roman or Greek empire. Even though we like to call ourselves a country, even though we like to call our emperor a president, we do still call the Senate the Senate. The reason why this is important to kind of understand how society works, how the upper echelons of society work, how to navigate those things, what are the rules, is because we're anarchists and we're trying to overthrow this system. These college campuses that have Greek lives on them are there to basically prepare the next generation of toxic, greedy, capitalist elite to do toxic, greedy, manipulative, and capitalist things, and they practice it on these college campuses. Another reason why this is important for anarchists, communists, is because our educational system within this empire country we live in is a sorting mechanism. We're going to be diving deeper into that in the next section, but it is a sorting mechanism, and even getting into college itself is a sorting mechanism for who is going to be at the top of society, the top echelons of society, and who is going to be at the bottom. And if you know anything about Roman society, it would be like who are going to be like the senators, or I think they're called plebs, and who are going to be like the slaves and the freedmen at the bottom. I also wanted to add in that I had to refilm this like first intro part because for some reason the video didn't get picked up. Not for some reason, I forgot to turn the camera on. That's actually what happened, and I only got the audio. And so this is me refilming it on another day, just in case when we go to the next section, you're like, something looks a little different. So what Greek life really ends up at the core being about is being accepted and finding which class of the upper echelons of society you are going to be accepted and belong to. Who are you going to get to network with? Who are you going to have parties with? Who are your children going to go to school with, right? Who are going to be supposedly your sister best friends? And when I say upper echelons of society and society as a whole, I definitely want to emphasize white, Western European society. I'm actually going to take white out and just say like Western European society, the West. Public education system in America en masse for everyone was really set up by people about 100 years ago, 150 years ago, to control the masses, to make more industrial workers, right? There are quotes from people that literally they are saying, like, we are not trying to educate or expand the mind. We are literally trying to make someone that knows the rudimentary sciences they need to know to be able to do the jobs and the functions we need them to do in society. College is part of that sorting system. Like, who gets into college and who just gets a high school diploma is part of the sorting system. High school itself is part of the sorting system, right? The categorizing of who's going to get to class move and who, in high school, right? There are private high schools, right? Did you go to a private high school? Did you go to a private boarding school? Well, then you're probably in the upper echelons of society. You're already categorized out, right? You don't even get to like socialize with people from other classes when you go to school. All of these institutional structures are absolutely influenced also by your race, by your attractiveness, by your gender, by your sexuality. But there are different ways within these structures that they categorize people, right? In high school, we're categorized by grades. We're categorized by honor roll and non-honor roll, right? Who are the bad kids who get suspended or in detention all the time, right? And oftentimes nowadays, who is going to be arrested, right? Who gets the police called on them, right? They're going to be having statistically less opportunities in the future, and that is also part of that sorting system. So once you've made it through high school, if you are so lucky as to be able to attend college, meaning that you have the funds or were able to get the funds somehow, and you are also able to put room and board over your head, and you got the grades from high school, so you've made it through one of capitalism's weeding systems, and you are now in college, and now there is Greek life, which not everybody on campus is in, because you have to rush and be chosen. The elite love to like choose, right? They love to like choose somebody. Ooh, you'll be my favorite. We're gonna touch more on that too. So college as a sorting system, you have right from the beginning, what kind of college are you going to? Is it a private school? Is it a public school? Are you going to community college, right? All of those things is already starting out the sorting system based on the degree you're going to get. Getting a 2-year degree from a community college or a bachelor's degree from a public school versus getting a degree at a private school that is of the upper echelon of society, it's D1 school, or again, Pepperdine or whatever. Those are going to be different people you get to socialize with, and it is going to affect like where you are going to fit in job wise, capitalism wise, because of the people that you are going to school with. And so that again is another sorting mechanism. Now when it comes to Greek life, then you sort through the houses, right? You sort between gender, male female houses, right? And you also sort through the best kids on campus, right? Because not everybody is in Greek life. And if they're not in Greek life, then yes, you've been decided to get a degree, but you probably will not be able to network, social climb as much as someone who's been able to have access to the privileges that Greek life gives you, even if it is one of the lower bar frat houses or sororities, which is so weird that they like rate them, but capitalism, everybody. So within a college setup, you have Greek students, people who are part of Greek life, and you have non-Greek students. That's a categorization, right? Then once you get into Greek life, you've got frats and sororities. And then once you get into that situation, right, there's power structures within all of those individual houses. So you have all the individual houses, and then all of those individual houses have their own government and power structure. And then the whole Greek life has its own, like, government and power structure, right? And within that, you also have the machine, which we will address here in a bit, but that's another sorting system within Greek life of who the elite people within the elite people are. Like a little Russian doll egg. Other categories that come up in college is like whether you finish or not. Like, did you get a degree or did you drop out? I have not. I'm in the dropout, by the way, just to clarify. I went to school online, never had this experience, never wanted to have this experience. Sororities, scared. No, not the experience I want to have. Like the aspect that most people understand that you go to college to get the piece of paper that says that you can finish college, unless you have like a very specific degree program, like being a lawyer or a doctor or a nurse, where it requires knowing very specific subjective type of information for that career versus, like a business degree. The degree programs are actually another way to sort people, right? Because the law students are going to stay with law students, business, right? You want to stay with people within your similar field because that's going to be best place to network. Greek life is absolutely a form of grooming. And by grooming, I mean it is a microcosm to practice all of the manipulative skills you need to thrive in capitalism and to work your way up the social status in a little microcosm of college. And so there is an aspect of grooming that these barely adults, just became adults, people are going to go through in college. And then if you decide to be in Greek life and you get accepted, and then also if you're part of the machine, which the people who are part of the machine are probably very much already aware of how this structure works because they are probably already in the upper echelons of society. Basically, the goal is to root out the weak and see who survives and who's willing to play the game, even if they have realized and figured out that it's rigged. So when you really break down what are the goals of getting into Greek life on campus, it's pretty simple. It's there's about 3 goals if the people are honest with themselves. Find a suitable match for marriage, or at least put yourself in a position to find that person. And again, the higher the class status you are in, the more that is important. We don't think or like to think about the fact that people that have these $1 billion, $1 million fortunes that they're passing along are absolutely involved in who their children are marrying. If they're the royalty of our day, it matters whose royal empires are coming together. This is a place to find that match and get approval from mommy and daddy. It's also a way to be accepted into a higher social group or class status, or basically to create a social group. It allows you the opportunity to possibly raise up your class status by knowing people that are in higher class statuses or class levels than you are. Or the first one, marrying up, which is what a lot of women are doing at college back in the day and now. Third one is, again, kind of related. You get to network with people in higher classes, so you also have the opportunity for better career possibilities in the future, which is more important now than it was back in the day. Obviously, women didn't have careers back when there was a royal court. It is an opportunity to learn the tools of power gaining and the tools of manipulation and the tools of capitalism and the rules, and practice them on your classmate in a more controlled setting before they let these human beings out and unleashed onto the real world to do more exploitation and narcissistic abuse and all the things in capitalism that we hate. Does this look okay? Is this a good location? This is not the best location. There's another spot in my dad's study. I mean, we have 14 rooms, so we should be able to find something. This is okay? Yeah, we like the lighting? Is the hair is it too white? Is it too white? No? Okay, we don't want it to be too white.
Alright, quiet on the set.
Camera speed.
Sound production, take 1.
Hi, my name is Charlotte Abigail Morgan Hurst, and I will be starting at Bama in the fall, and I'm so looking forward to rushing. My mother was an Alpha Theta Pi alumni, and I have just been waiting since I was 6 years old. There's nothing that I wanted more than to be a part of this sisterhood. I've just always felt from a really young age that I just embodied what an Alpha Theta Pi sister really is. I come from a quaint family of 5. I'm a daddy's girl. My mother is my best friend. We love to go shopping together. We work on a few different charities locally here together. My father is a pastor on the weekends at our local church. And when the Lord Jesus Christ is done flowing through him, he very humbly runs his self-named law firm, Morgan Hurst and Associates. I have 2 eligible older brothers that also attend BAMA and are also in Greek Life. They are both in one of the top fraternities on campus. I was a valedictorian of my upstate New York boarding school. I love butterflies and knitting, and I love a good Taylor Swift concert. You know, when I'm not studying for my constitutional law degree, I'm hoping to become the first woman president. I hope this little video helps you get to know a little bit about me. I'm so excited to hopefully be meeting my new Alpha Theta Pi sisters really soon. I'm so excited. Like, I'm so excited. Like, I've been just trying on outfits for the last like 6 years. I'm not sure, like this red, I thought that it was really nice and it like popped for the video, but I know that we're not supposed to like stand out too much. So I picked some other outfits and I'm just so excited to meet my new sisters. So make sure to look out for me, BAMA Rush coming this fall. Again, my name is Charlotte Abigail Morgan Hurst. See you soon, ladies. So let's just talk a little bit about the perfect sorority woman. And I know that this does differ depending on what college you're at. So this documentary is specifically about Alabama, and Alabama is in the South. So it is going to very much cater towards this Southern belle. And so there may be some things that are slightly different in other colleges, but it's probably pretty similar because, again, the upper echelons of society have a very hypocritical perspective of purity in marriage. They perform it, but they're also most of the time a bunch of sluts, a bunch of fucking sluts, all these people, just like royal court. They're fucking everyone, mistresses left and right. You know what I mean? And guess what? The guys, the men, they learn that in Greek life in college because they kind of have the power over Greek life since they rate all the houses. The men, the young boys, that just became adult boys, get to rate, they make the ratings for the sorority houses, and most people assume in the documentary it's based on how hot the women are, and I don't think I needed to watch the documentary to know that.
I think the competition mostly comes from the rankings of sororities, trying to get in one of those top or middle tier houses and not getting into a bottom house. I think a lot of the times people like to rank, and by people, I usually mean fraternity boys or boys in general. I feel like they're like, oh, this house has the hottest girls, so they're a top house. They, like, these freshmen are the hottest freshmen, so they're gonna be considered a top house.
Ranking system, I truly believe, is based on the fraternities. So essentially they have a social calendar and they get to mix with certain sororities, but it's only a limited amount. And the fraternities want to be mixing with the hottest sororities, of course, because, you know, they're 20-year-old males. So that's kind of where the ranking system comes from. They want to make sure the girls who are wearing their letters are up to their standards.
The perfect sorority woman. You have to be lovely and outgoing and know how to do small talk. Always presenting the best example of womanhood in society. You are a representation. You are a Barbie. You're like the first Barbie of whatever your role is, the version of you in society, and you're like supposed to be able to present this so that every other woman peasant can look up to you and know that this is what womanhood is, you know? You must be unique, but do not stand out. Look the part and fit in, but be unique, but don't stand out. Your outfit of the day must be impressive and designer, conventionally and objectively attractive. Conventionally objectively attractive, so like we can't have any like we can't have too many like full-blown like sex pots, you know? Some women, they just ooze sex. I doubt that they make their way into a lot of these sororities. Some women ooze, you know, pretty flowers. Some women ooze lavender. And some women ooze fuck. You know what I mean? Like Doja Cat. Doja Cat oozes fuck.
We are enemies. We are foes.
That's probably going to stand out, right? And possibly make some of these other people who ooze lavender a little insecure. So I doubt that those women do as well. So again, conventionally, objectively attractive, okay? You must look like you belong, whatever that means. Classy, calm, and cool, you know? You must be pretty enough, but most likely not too pretty or too attractive to steal too much of the air or attention in the room, because then you are a threat. This is true. I used to work at a bar right down the street from SMU in Dallas, Texas. And I used to be so confused at how like large groups of girls would come in. They're clearly in a sorority together, right? There's 10, 15, 20 of them. They're there for a birthday or whatever. And like, I cannot tell these women apart. Like, I'm not trying to be that person that's like, all white women look alike, but I could not tell the girls apart. I would take pictures, you know, all of them in a line, like doing the picture, there's like 25 of them, and like they all have the same haircut. It's like only 6 colors of blonde between all of them and all their highlights. And it was really hard to tell them apart. And that stood out to me in this documentary. I'm like, oh, that's why. That's why. So what is important for like rushing, right? I made kind of a list based on like what I heard them talk about in the documentary. What you wear is clearly really important because that's, I think, one of the reasons why this whole thing blew up on TikTok. So
Emma Rush, Sisterhood Day 1, OOTD. Jewelry is from Vivienne Westwood, Tiffany, you know the back.
Thanks TikTok for blowing this topic up so we got this documentary. So that I could do this video. Your class status, they don't talk about that very much in the documentary, but it's very obvious that your class status is very important because I believe it was like over $8,000 in like membership fees per year to join a sorority. That was just one number. I'm sure it depends on, the amount will depend on the sorority, but I can't imagine paying what, $30,000, $40,000 a year for school, and then room and board, and then also like $8,000, $9,000 to just be in a group. Just be like, making friends is free. What family you are from, this didn't come up in the documentary, but like your family name and the reputation of that family and like where they stand in the current society is really important about getting into these frats and sororities, and probably is really influential within the aspect of the machine or the upper echelons of Greek government and Greek life. What your personal public reputation is. So now that we have social media, the girls were making sure that their social media looked like what a perfect sorority girl, like we talked about in the last little topic, looks like, right? So they have to take off stuff that may be too sexual, or maybe talking about topics that they're not supposed to be talking about in public. We'll also get to that. But you have to be very aware of your own like public reputation constantly, which, having gotten just a little smidgen of that in my life, I hate that. And I would hate to have to do that all the time. It causes a ton of anxiety to have to be on your P's and Q's all the time and never be able to make a mistake, or you might get shunned or lose all your opportunities or kicked out of the sorority or fraternity or whatever else. So once you graduate and you're in society, yeah, you will get like exiled from different aspects of the upper echelons of society. The charity that you have performed for other people, that's really important because, you know, the elite like to make sure that they look like they're giving some pennies back so that we think that they are good people, you know, and they feel inside like they are good people, even though they are not. They could be though, okay? Again, I'm like Jesus. In the aspect that you can always come to the light all the way down to the last minute, okay? You can always become the anarchist and realize that you was wrong and turn around to better ways. I did not just say I'm like Jesus. I'm keeping that in there. I don't care. How do you present to the everyday people? So that also has to do with your reputation. You have a reputation within the upper echelons of society, but then you also have a reputation with like us, the peasants, the peasantry, the masses. The slaves, the workers. Can you follow rules? That's a big one. It's, can you follow the rules when necessary, and do you know when it's okay to break them? Because they love to break all their rules. It's part of the hypocrisy, it's part of the narcissism, it's part of the, you know, performance. And then also, how badly do you want to belong? And the more that you want to belong, the more that you have that need and desire to belong to a status or a class in the world, the more that they are going to kind of probably be able to run you through suck you right into the beast. They love people that are desperate and especially traumatized, especially if your parents didn't accept you, and so you are super desperate for affirmation and acceptance. Like a lot of us, actually. Like a lot of us. All right, that got too serious for a second. Let's move on to the next card. Title card. Now, I mentioned rules in the last segment, but it's a very, weird, not based on morality set of rules to play in these upper echelons of society, because once you get to that aspect of society, a lot of people are struggling with self-obsession to the extreme, maybe pathologically. I won't use the N word. Narcissism. I won't say that because I don't know if my audience is ready to hear that most of the people at the top are probably fucking narcissists. But once you get to that point, that means the rules of engagement are going to constantly change, right? Moving the goalpost, and are going to look different than what the rules of engagement are for, again, the rest of society. There is a certain abstract, arbitrary, unspoken criteria that you must meet or you're rejected. Abstract, arbitrary, and unspoken criteria. So you have no idea what it is, and it can always change, and that is a tactic of a narcissist. Moving the goalpost. And also not sharing enough information so that you would possibly know what the goalposts are. No one from the outside or the peasantry is really going to get into these parties. A lot of these parties, you may be so blessed as to be friends with someone who goes to one of these schools, and maybe you didn't go to college and they bring you to a party, but there's probably rules about that. Like, it was very clear in this documentary that what goes on behind closed doors in these frats and sororities, they do not want people to know. And oh, the bodies that are probably buried. And I mean metaphorically and literally. The fraternities are actually the ones that hold the power and run Greek life and society. So maybe that's a little place we could explore about some of this, sexism that we're dealing with in society. That may have something to do with it if everybody at the top is running through these systems in which at a young age, at 18, 19, a young boy gets to experience power over other people, power over other men, power over women. Yeah, it's a good way to juice them up for a lifelong journey of only seeking power. Some of the rules of engagement, don't be too scandy. They said it, scandy. I love these new generations slang terms. It's like they're just lazy and don't want to finish saying the word. Not scandalous, it's scandy. Don't really trust anyone. Because anyone and everyone will call you out to get you in trouble because that benefits them in the power structure. Oftentimes to benefit from the capitalistic, grind to the top, you are going to have to betray people along the way, right? There's only one position. You're going to have to do things that may not be in your value system, and capitalism will force you to do that because you want that promotion, or you want to get invited to that party, or whatever else. You have to be on your P's and Q's because you have to keep your reputation up, but you also have to be on your P's and Q's around other people within your class social structure, because they may be the ones that betray you if it benefits them. You want people talking about you, mainly because you're obsessed with yourself, but also because it benefits you to have your name in people's mouths, but you only want them talking about you in the best ways. This is in Greek sorority life, and that would be ideal because you don't want to get canceled or, again, kicked out. Once they graduate and they're in everyday society, negative attention isn't always bad attention. I think that's actually one of the 48 laws of power. Rush is an emotional process, right? It's about, can you make it through the week? psychologically. It is kind of psychological warfare, right? Because it's like having to deal with like a whole legion of narcissistic people, or people who are a little emotionally unstable because they were raised in too much money and spoiled. Not all of them, but a good portion. This week, right, when we hear about hazing, right, there's been hazing stories that have been so extreme. People have died, people have seriously been harmed, right? We call it hazing because they're in college. I think that is a language that the elite want us to use so that we think that that is normal behavior and not psychotic or neurotic or narcissistic, right? Because these are their children, they're extensions of themselves, of their empires. A lot of things that happen in sororities and fraternities is criminal. Let's put it that way, criminal. Here is a list of a few crimes perpetrated by sorority sisters. In 2018, at Georgia's Fort Valley State University, girls were coerced into sexual acts in order to help pay for their school fees. At Ohio's Muskingum University, a 20-year-old Miss Weaver gave birth to a baby in the bathroom and then put the baby in a trash bag and left it outside near the sorority where the baby died. In 2002, 2 Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority pledges were found drowned in the ocean on Dock Wheeler State Beach after a hazing ritual. In 2010, at Rutgers University, Sigma Gamma Rho sorority beat one of their pledges over 200 times in a hazing ritual, causing so much pain to her buttocks she had to go to the hospital. In 2015, a UCLA student was stabbed multiple times and a fire was started to try to cover up the murder. The men arrested for the murder were college students. The sorority girl that was murdered was found in possession of large amounts of drugs intent for sale. In 2016, 3 sisters from the Kappa Delta Pi sorority at the University of California, St. Cruz were arrested in a campus-wide drug ring. They reportedly mailed over $100,000 worth of MDMA to themselves on campus with the intent to sell. And just to be fair, let's talk about a couple scandals from fraternities. 3 fraternities at Cal State Northridge have been suspended since the death last year of a 19-year-old student. Armando Villa became dehydrated July 1st during a mandatory hike while pledging for Pi Kappa Pi. That fraternity and 2 others have been shut down over allegations of hazing and sexual misconduct. A northern Michigan ski resort has accused University of Michigan fraternity Sigma Alpha Mu and sorority Sigma Delta Tau of so thoroughly trashing rooms this year that cleanup costs totaled $230,000. The fraternity is no longer recognized as a campus organization, and the sorority has been placed on disciplinary suspension for 2 years. A criminal investigation is underway. The Clemson University chapter of Sigma Alpha Epsilon fraternity was suspended in December after holding a Crimpmas party, where white students dressed up as gang members. Campus administrators castigated the party, but many students said it reflected a deep ingrained sense of racial hostility at the Southern Carolina school. At Wesleyan University, a Wesleyan University student filed a federal lawsuit against Psi Epsilon fraternity and its Wesleyan chapter in May, alleging she was thrown over a couch in a common room and raped while others watched after she tried to leave a party in 2013. The student contends that the fraternity's negligence allowed her to be assaulted. Georgia Tech Phi Kappa Tau fraternity made headlines in 2013 after fraternity-wide email that offered advice for luring rape bait at parties was leaked online. It was suspended in 2014 for 3 years because of several violations of the student code of conduct. Arizona State University revoked fraternity Tau Kappa Epsilon's affiliation with the school in 2014 after it threw a Martin Luther King Jr. themed party that mocked African Americans. Photos from the event showed mostly white attendees wearing baggy basketball jerseys and bandanas and drinking from watermelon cups, along with hashtags such as Blackout for MLK, I Have a Dream, and MLK Party. Another ASU fraternity had its status revoked in 2013 after a 20-year-old student with a blood alcohol level 5 times the legal limit was dumped at an emergency room. His Sigma Alpha Epsilon brothers left only a post-it note with his name scribbled on it to identify him. In 2012, another student, 19-year-old Rushi Jack C., drowned in a river after drinking at an event thrown by the fraternity. Delta Kappa Epsilon, the Yale fraternity that counts both President Bushes as alumni, was banned from recruiting members or holding any events on campus for 5 years in 2011. The fraternity's offenses: pledges were required to chant sexually offensive remarks, including no means yes, yes means anal, while gathered on the university's historic old campus quad. In June 2012, the Sigma Alpha Epsilon fraternity chapter at Cornell University was convicted of violating New York anti-hazing laws in the February 2011 death of 19-year-old George Desdunes. Authorities say the sophomore from Brooklyn died after drinking too much alcohol during a hazing ritual. In January 2009, the Sigma Nu fraternity and Chi Omega sorority chapters of the Utah State University were charged with felony hazing after an 18-year-old freshman pledge, Michael Starks, died of alcohol poisoning. The December 2013 death of Chun Michael Deng, a 19-year-old freshman and pledge at the Baruch College's Pi Delta Pi fraternity, was officially ruled a homicide by police. The pledge died while at a weekend retreat at a rented home in the Pocono Mountains with about 3 dozen fraternity members from the New York City College. If anyone is thinking it is not as bad in the sororities, then you probably have a very skewed view of women and their potential for toxic behavior. So some of the other rules for engagement don't follow the trend, but also fit in the certain mold, the certain mold that is abstract, arbitrary, and unspoken. Don't stand out, but be remembered. I understand in this documentary why the girls were so riddled with anxiety about going through this process. Like, What kind of direction is that? Don't stand out, but be remembered. Bitch, how the fuck am I supposed to do that? And then the last one that I noticed in this was make sure your social media is pretty and perfect. And then also don't talk about the 5 Bs. You don't want to ask people who are already in Greek life, who are already members of a sorority. You don't want to ask them about the 5 Bs. And you also don't want to talk about the 5 Bs on your social media. What are the 5 Bs, you ask? Well, title card. So the 5 Bs are topics to not initiate conversation about. This really stood out to me because this is directly what my adopted mother taught me growing up. I didn't know this was, traditional like Southern Belle sorority girl rules, but the 5 Bs, the first one is boys, which basically means don't ask people about their relationship, the boys they like. This one's very interesting because as much as like these girls in sororities can get jealous over guys, it seems like you'd want to communicate the guys that you're interested in so that you make sure other girls aren't interested in them too, it seems like. But that's too much information, so they keep that private. I think that's interesting because I'm not sure how, well, if you don't talk about these 5 Bs with people in your life, if these topics never come up, I'm going to question how deep of friends you are, because all of these things, they encourage you not to talk about because these topics actually communicate something subjective about who you are as a person. And we don't want that, honey. Like, we don't want that, honey. We don't want that, honey. We don't want that, honey, right? Like, you're supposed to fit in but be remembered, right? But not too unique. Another reason they probably don't talk about boys is probably for the other reason. Like, I'm thinking of it like I would want to tell my friends guys I'm interested in so that they know I'm interested in them, so they don't become interested in them, right? As like, hey, I'm looking at this guy. I think they look at it as I don't want to let them know I'm interested because then somebody might go steal them. If that's a concern you have in your friendship group, I'm gonna question how good those friendships are. That if you told your girlfriends about a guy you're interested in, like one or a couple of them would then try to woo him, that's not your friend. If you don't know that and you're watching this video, that is absolutely not your friend. The second one is booze, so they don't want you to talk about drinking. Weird, since, they spend a lot of time drinking. I think that was one of the other rules, is that they aren't allowed to drink when they have their letters on for their sorority, and they're not allowed to have alcohol in the sororities, but that rule doesn't exist for the boys, and the boys clearly always have a shit ton of booze. That's why the boys have to host the parties because you can't drink in the girls' sororities. 3 is Bible, which basically means religion, right? Don't talk about religion. This is also like religion and politics is a well-known thing that people communicate. Like, don't talk about religion and politics. I've always thought that's weird. Religion and politics, again, it's 2 things that communicate your value system and what is important to you. And I definitely want to know the value systems of my friends. That's how you build friendships and intimate relationships, is through shared values. The 4th one is bucks, so basically means how much money you make. This goes back to a very old money tradition of not talking about money. It's a trope to be able to tell the difference between old money and new money. New money is going to talk about it. They're very gaudy, right? Old money tends to be a little bit more traditional, a little subdued, and obviously they don't want to talk publicly about money. That makes the social climbing a little bit harder. It means you have to really do your research to know what the hierarchy is, because no one's gonna tell you yeah, my dad's a billionaire. And then the 5th one was Biden, which basically stood for politics. Again, talking about politics basically means you are sharing your core value system. Politics is directly connected to your value system and morality, which is why we are seeing the current political system that we are seeing right now. We have social media that is now created a space, an environment for us to all share our own individual and shared values, and they're conflicting. When Trump won and people stopped being friends with each other, that's because people were learning for the first time where they didn't share values with other people. It may seem like people stop being friends just because their friend voted for Trump, and it's like, no, the vote for Trump communicates more about what you think is valuable and moral, and that's probably why they stop being friends with you. So again, like I mentioned, all of these things are actually key parts of who you are as a person. So if you're not ever talking about them with your sisters and your best friends for life, then I'm questioning again how authentic and intimate and deep and true those relationships really are. Because then you kind of don't know the person, do you? So I loved that they actually brought this up in the documentary. It does show some very odd self-awareness. I think it was one of the coaches, which is no whole nother thing that they have fucking coaches. I think it was one of the coaches that mentioned that this is what is called a social stratification ritual. Social stratification refers to a society's categorization of its people into groups based on social economic factors like wealth, income, race, education, ethnicity, gender, occupation, social status, and derived power, social and political. And really, all of those things listed can really just be equated to power. Capitalism is a system that is based on everyone seeking power, no matter what, over everything else. At its core, in a philosophical way, like that is our psychological way, like that is what capitalism is. Social stratification is something we're doing all the time, right? You buy a certain car because you want to look a certain way, or you don't drive your car certain places or parts of town because you think you might be judged. That's an aspect of societal control and social stratification. They're literally keeping you out of a part of town that you have every right to drive through because you're embarrassed about your car. That's a control mechanism. So stratification basically talks about where everybody fits in the hierarchy of a social group or a social setting or, you know, a social institution. So I was glad they mentioned this because that is absolutely what's going on. And I didn't know that there was actually like language for this. It's kind of interesting. The more that I learn about things, the more I realize like, oh, they like know what they're doing. Like the people at the top of capitalism are maybe not conscious, right? Because they're dealing with neurosis and other things, but like the information and data is there that they know that like, yeah, this is a social stratification ritual that we're putting our kids through at 18 so that they are successful because we care about them and their future. Oh no, we don't want to have a conversation with them or get to know them as a person, but we set them up to get into this good college. You know what I mean? Some other interesting things that I felt that got mentioned is that the sorority aspect, that perfect sorority girl, is a contemporary performance of the Southern Belle. Be sweet, right? They have this little kind of high-pitched, airy voice. I call it the Ariana. Well, Ariana Grande can also like blow, but maybe the Britney Spears. It's the pop voice. It's the white girl pop voice. That's how, it's all the air coming through. All the air. So it's a contemporary performance of the Southern Belle, and it's also competition. It is competitive femininity, I think is what one of the ladies said. And I was like, oh my God, I love that. Competitive femininity. That is exactly what is going on. You know, we have beauty pageants for a reason, right? Lots of people who are in beauty pageants are also in sororities. There's connections between these personality archetypes that are drawn to these things in society. Patterns. Are we seeing patterns? The ranking system of sorority houses is based on the men in the frats, which is based on who the men think are the most eligible and hot women. That's really what it comes down to. It's not even just how attractive, it's also how eligible. Eligible? Where are they on the marriage status ranking, right? Is this a girl that like you have to seriously date because she comes from a specific family and you can't just like one night stand her or RAP her? You need to know that if you're a man. That is probably some of the most important information as a fraternity like dude that you need to know if you want to be successful is like, who can you sexually fuck with? Because that has its own class status as well, unfortunately.
Did I lie? Did I lie? Did I fucking lie?
If you are a woman from a higher class family, from a family with a certain name, that does give you a form of protection in these situations, because the repercussions for the man, it would be a lot, as well as the woman will still be blamed. It's this very weird thing. Again, they're very hypocritical. The man will suffer private behind the scenes consequences that will be taken care of within their elite community, whereas the woman may suffer public humiliation as well as the trauma of that happening, like but they don't want it to go public. So whenever we see those things that gone public, something has gone wrong. I wrote here, sorting between who is a fling and a mistress and who is potential match to create a powerhouse marriage. These women have to be up to these men's standards. And I'm going to say men like this because these are boys that are 18, 19, 20. Greek life is self-governed. The government system of Greek life is it's based off of Greek and Roman life, and also how our current empire of America is organized. Top, having a senate, masses, votes. They even literally elect a king and queen, which is the weirdest thing, to elect a king and queen. They should, it's weird. It's weird. King, queen, president, emperor, same thing to me. Unconsensual authority. But it is self-governed, and it is also just about as corrupt as our normal fucking outside government institutions and situations, because these are literally boys and girls that are 18 to 22. They have no life experience, right? They just barely have a high school education and whatever their parents have put into them or their nannies. Your peers decide if you have broken arbitrary, unlisted rules, and their decisions are rigged based on how much they like you personally or how much your existence benefits them. Yeah, reading that out loud is oh man, that's deep. They're literally they're encouraged to do that at 18 and 19. And I'm just imagining all of the horrific psychological trauma that has been going on within these structures and institutions for over 100 years, I think. The sororities are segregated unless you are passing. So let's be honest, it's great that they integrated the sororities in 2013. 2013 is when they were finally integrated. But let's be honest, they're never going to be fully integrated. You're not going to see a predominantly white sorority have a bunch of black women from, to be honest, the elite of the black community. We have our own class status structure within the black community. So the black elite, they are not going to be rushing for an elite white sorority. They have their own sororities and their own system, because I guess that's what the black elite decided that we were going to do as black people. I didn't get a vote in that idea, that concept. There will be some black people of color in general, that will get into some of these sororities. One, because of what is supposed to be publicly and socially acceptable. That's always important, is their image. But also there are people that are closer to whiteness, if that is a thing. That's the language people like to use. They are wealthy, or they were raised by white people, or they were raised around white people, and mainly they were wealthy or had access to grants or scholarships that give them access to this school. Oh yeah, and the last thing I put here is if you are a person of color, your opportunities in this social game are going to be incredibly limited. So your rules are different, and you as a black person will learn that your rules are different as you break them. It's real fun. Real fun. Because the rules are the same for you as the white people, and then there's an extra set of rules that they're not going to tell you you're going to have to learn. It's a lot that you have to swallow to really be accepted in those spaces. And this is coming from someone who, not necessarily in a college space, but in other spaces, have definitely been that black person who was accepted when I was young and ignorant and dumb. And looking back now, it was incredibly uncomfortable. I was just unaware the depth of meaning of what was going on and didn't have enough information. All right, let's talk about the machine. I love when they brought up the machine, because it was like the thing I needed to find, because I've already studied so much about secret societies, the history of them, and a lot of them that are in the United States, that when the machine came up, I was like, oh, okay. So I knew some stuff started in college, but I didn't know they had a name for it, and people would literally deny that it existed on camera, or that people were brave enough who had been through it to actually speak out. So let's talk about the machine. This is editor Brittany's disembodied voice. This video got a little long, so I split it up into two. I know, funny, my video reviewing this documentary I think is longer than the actual documentary. In part 2, we will talk about The Machine, we'll do a side-by-side comparison of Bama Rush versus Bridgerton, a psychoanalysis of the entire Greek system and the subjects in the documentary, and more. Make sure to check out part 2 of this video. Also, please do the YouTube things like, share, subscribe, and thank you for watching. We will see you in the next one.